In this video, we're going to be ranking the 16 Myers-Briggs personalities from best to worst. As you can see, there it is. And if you're lucky, you might hear my wife yelling on the phone. I don't know what's going on, but it sounds heated. ENTJs, man. Now, maybe this is your first time on my channel. You don't know what MBTI is? Well, it's fairly simple. Do you make decisions with thinking, which is logical stuff, or feeling, which is more emotional? And what information do you trust the most? Is it the intuitive information, which is abstract, the patterns? Or do you rely on the sensory information, the facts and figures, the provable, observable information? Of course, guys, this is all in good fun. It's all good fun. If you're not laughing, then what are you doing? And before I show you my rankings, I want to see in the comments what you think the top and the bottom types are going to be. Where does your type end up? Heck, just leave your whole ranking in the comments section. So first, we're going to look at the NT types. So they all have NT in the middle, and these are kind of like the nerdy types because NT stands for intuition thinking. So the information that they're most concerned with is that abstract information, and they're thinkers. So they're just like puzzling out the mysteries of life all the time. INTPs, they are sometimes called the logician. Now this type is the stereotypical absent-minded professor. It's the person who's really brainy, they're wicked smart, if you will, but they forget just like basic stuff, like how do I talk to people? They can often be, you know, pretty fun to hang around because a lot of times they know a lot of like cool games and stuff you can play. They just sometimes say stuff that's a little bit off. They'll say stuff that they don't realize is kind of wrecking the vibe. So we're just gonna start putting them smack dab in the middle. Where will they go from here? See how I did this? Now you have to watch the whole video because the rankings could change. Who knows? INTP could end up at the top, they could end up at the bottom. Frank, I'll just skip to the end and see what the ranking is. No! Now all we do is take that I and switch it to an E, and we have ENTPs. Of course, if you don't know anything about Myers-Briggs, the I and E stands for introvert, extrovert, which, you know, generally, I guess that's accurate. The ENTPs are a little less socially awkward. They're called the debater. And what I found is funny is that when I talk about that, you'll get the ENTPs in the audience that'll be like,
we are not like that. We don't just debate.
And I'm like, do you realize what you're doing right now with this comment? But overall, I like ENTPs. So where should I put them? Everything's subject to change. Now we have the ENTJ, sometimes called the commander, and as I mentioned, my wife. These types are good at controlling a room. They'll like step into any situation and kind of be like, okay, what needs to be done here? What work needs to be done? Why are you all standing around looking stupid? Let's get the work done. And as my wife and I go to sleep every night, she just starts rattling off a list of all the things that need to be done. I'm like, I'm trying to I'm trying to go to sleep here. We'll put it here. And now I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna move the ENTP down because they're just gonna start arguing why they should be first place. Yeah! That's right, ENTPs, debate your way out of that. I'm not joking around!
Of course, guys, this is all in good fun.
Frank, you are so mean. INTJ, they're known as the architect because they're all about planning. They're all about sitting back and thinking about what's gonna happen in the future, like a long ways out. Now let me come up with a plan for everything. But you never know what they're planning, do you? Like it could be something sinister. I don't know. Sorry, INTJs, plan your way out of that. But like I said, you never know. Like if every other type is worse than that, you could be number 3. ENTPs, you got some work to do, okay? So the SF, sensing, feeling, these are probably the most grounded of all the types because they're going off of the sensing, the sensory information, what is provable and what is factual. That's what they're paying attention to, as well as the feeling, the emotions, that gut level decision making. The ISFP, they're known as the adventurers. They are stereotypically artists. They do like to seek adventure, and sometimes they'll just like travel with no plan and no return ticket. They kind of just do whatever they want. ISFPs are also the kind of people though who will just like bail on you when you have plans. I mean, everyone will do that, but they do it chronically and they don't apologize. They're just like, well, I had something better to do. Why would I come to your wedding? I had something better to do. This is a hard one. That's right. ISFJs, they're stereotypically nice people. amazing people. The thing about ISFJ is they're called the defender a lot of times, and I feel like any personality system that has a personality type that is defined by loyalty, they're just like shoehorning everyone who doesn't fit into another type into that type. And in that way, I think ISFJs get short shrift. One thing ISFJs a lot of times don't get proper credit for in these stereotypes is that they're really good storytellers. They like to tell stories. And a lot of these types, another thing they don't get credit for is if they set their mind to something, they can go out and accomplish a lot of big stuff on their own. Stuff that isn't their stereotypical profession of nursing. But it is true, if you go to any hospital, a lot of the nurses there are ISFJs. Don't tell my wife. ESFJs are kind of like ISFJs, except they're extroverted. So they're up in your grill a lot more. They're up in your face. They're called the council a lot of times, which is, in my opinion, like the worst nickname of all the types. Now these types, unlike the ISFJ, they are the ones who are more likely to entertain, to throw parties. One thing that I think is not very well known about them is that they do have a side of them that feels almost more like a thinker, where they're just like,
No, that is wrong.
not something you expect from this type, but it comes out. The only thing I have against this type is that sometimes they can be a lot. Sometimes you just want a break and they won't give it to you. You just want to stop having a good time, but they're like, why? Stay up till 3
Having fun.
You know, I think for now I'm gonna put him in a tie. Let's settle that later. ESFPs are the entertainer. They are the performer. That's like their thing in the Myers-Briggs personalities. It's interesting because compared to the ESFJ, the ESFP is performing, yeah, they're performing for other people, but it's mostly for their own benefit because they love it. For ESFJs, it's like, what do you guys want to see? Let me do that. For ESFPs, it's like, here is what I think is funny, what I think is entertaining. Now let me share that with you. But if you don't like it, that's on you. That's your fault because you have bad taste. One thing you don't hear a lot about this type is that they buy in somewhat quickly to a lot of weird things like conspiracy theories. They'll read one thing one time on like a forum somewhere or in a YouTube comment and they'll be like,
Guys, did you know Paul McCartney died in 1966?
okay, we're gonna have to move some people around. Next, we're going to talk about the ST types. So they are sensing thinking. They're looking at the real world and the facts, and they're using logic. So these types are really practical, pragmatic. ISTJs are called like the logistician or something. I love hearing ISTJs talk, especially when they are talking about something they know a lot about, because it's just fascinating and they have a way of presenting it in a very clear way. Like ISTJs make great teachers when it comes to explaining complex things that are in the real world. I don't know if I have anything negative to say about ISTJs. I mean, where would we be as a society without them? We would be lost. Not sure where they're gonna fit in there. ISTPs are probably the coolest type. Let's just be honest. They're called the virtuoso, I think. These types are very practical as well, but their strength is like figuring things out on the fly. They're very smart and also very independent. You imagine someone like Clint Eastwood in those old westerns standing out there by himself with a cigarello in his mouth. But ISTPs, one of the things that doesn't get talked about a lot is that they are friendly, that I've found. Every ISTP I've talked to has been great. And they also a lot of times are really into music. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like that's their way of expressing their emotional side. Oh dear. I don't know, I like them. ESTPs, a lot of times they're called the entrepreneur because they like to just go out, find a bunch of problems to solve and solve them, which can often be like, how do I make a business that makes money? I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna keep doing it. One of the things that you don't get with the stereotype that I found to be true with ESTPs is that if you get to know them after a while, this very soft, analytical, thoughtful side comes out. But that's not the side that they are gonna like present to everyone right off the bat. Ooh, we're gonna have a big showdown at the end here. Now we have the ESTJ. They're called the executive a lot of times. This is like the stereotypical like Gordon Ramsay type who's coming in and telling everyone what to do and what they're doing wrong, which is similar to the ENTJ. I guess the difference is these types get much more particular about exactly what you're doing and how you do it. One of the things that doesn't get talked about in the stereotype a lot of times is that this type, well, they are not themselves emotional, but they can deal with the emotions of other people in a way that feels almost like, am I dealing with an ESFJ? Ultimately, what they're trying to do is to get you to pick yourself up and get to work, because here's the problem you need to fix. You need to clean up your room or something. That's why would you be sad about that? I don't even know. I really like ESTJs. I probably didn't need to jump for that. Remember to leave a comment telling me your ranking. Next up, we have all the NF types, and NF is intuition feeling. So they're looking mostly at the abstract world, and then they are talking in that feeling language. They're looking at the emotions. They're looking at just that gut level. INFJs, the advocate. The stereotype of INFJs is that they like to give a lot of advice. Like they kind of have this guru status. They're like Dumbledore walking around, as opposed to rolling around in his rascal scooter. And that's because INFJs do oftentimes feel like they have everything figured out. They might not say that, but the way that they give advice about things that they really don't know that much about with a lot of confidence, it makes you think they have everything figured out. For example, you get an INFJ telling you all this relationship advice and how to fix your relationship and all this stuff, and they don't have a relationship. They've never been in a relationship. They'll tell you how to find your purpose in life. Meanwhile, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. One of the stereotypes of INFJs that is kind of true is this chameleon thing, where I feel like more than most other types try to shift who they are depending on what situation they're in. They know that, but if you're in the room looking at them, you don't know that. And they might be hiding themselves so well over time that you're actually like not getting anything of who they really are. So on the surface, they might seem like someone who just really annoys the crap out of you. And sometimes they're just like boring because they don't want to try to put out a bunch of energy. Not last place. On to a rarer type, the ENFJ. They are called the protagonist. I think most ENFJs would view themselves more like, if I'm gonna be the protagonist, I'm gonna have to like fight through a lot of crap, because most of the time I feel like I am just there to help everyone else. Like I'm the sidekick for everyone else. One thing that's not talked about a lot with stereotypes of ENFJs is that they can be very entrepreneurial. I feel like there are a lot of ENFJs who are successful in business. Perhaps they're good at business because they're also able to easily like navigate the social areas of business. There's like so many ties that have to be broken. ENFPs are oftentimes called the campaigner, and stereotypically these are free-spirited people who kind of live by the beat of their own drum. They're not afraid to stand out and be weird. They're very spontaneous. Stereotypical thing is that they love world travel, and they'll just like travel a lot without any kind of plan. One thing I think ENFPs don't, is like it's not enough in their stereotype, is that ENFPs are very intense people. Like yeah, a lot of times they're fun, they have a good sense of humor, but they also just have this sort of I'm doing whatever I want mentality that it can feel a little bit scary to be around, especially for a person like me who doesn't like to do anything. I really try to avoid fun. And ENFPs are the kind of people who will just take things too far, so it can be a mixed bag with them. Now we have the INFP. They are called the mediator a lot of times. I think a stereotype of the INFP is that they're very like nice, sensitive, you know, pushovers, but they're not. They might be nice on the outside, but they're very difficult on the inside, and they're not going to do things they don't want to do, no matter how much it makes sense, no matter how much everyone is asking them to do it. They're just like, nah. Which is why a lot of INFPs are very innovative people, especially when it comes to the arts, where they're able to just go off on their own path and figure out some kind of amazing, beautiful, interesting, innovative art form because they don't want input from other people. So then we have a tiebreaker, ISFJ and ESTJ. Who would win in a baking competition? I would say ISFJ's got that one in the bag. They got grandma's apple pie recipe or whatever. Although, now I'm thinking about it, ESTJ, you got someone like Gordon Ramsay. You know what? ESTJ wins the baking competition with sheer brute force, blowing grandma's apple pie out of the water. So now we have a three-way tie here with ENTJ, ISTJ, and the ESTP. Given further consideration, I might want to just be safe in case she watches this and say, sorry, ISTP. So what tiebreaker can we do for ESTP and ISTJ? Who would win in Mario Kart? Well, of course, your initial inclination might be the ESTP, but I think the ISTJ has probably been playing Mario Kart their entire life. The ISTJ just has the muscle memory of Mario Kart in their bones. For this one, the ESFJ versus INTP, I think our dramatic tiebreaker, there's no reason for me to be on the ladder right now. Who could tell the best dad joke? Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Get it? So I went to an Indian restaurant the other day, and when I sat down, before I could even order, they handed me a piece of paper and a pen, and I'm looking it over. It's this long contract, and it says in it, "We have naan at this restaurant." And I was like, what is this? What are you making me do here? Why do I have to sign this? And then the waiter said, "Sir, just sign the non-disclosure agreement, please." Get it? Who do you think won? Let me know in the comments. Personally, between the two, ESFJs just live and breathe dad jokes, I feel like. It's gonna be a close one, but you know, you gotta pick a winner. How's the weather down there, guys? All right, next up, we have a tiebreaker for the INTJ and ENFJ. Which type would survive the longest in a zombie outbreak? Well, it's interesting, because on the one hand, you have the INTJ. They're the kind of people who have a plan for these unlikely scenarios, like a zombie outbreak. They're the ones that went to Costco and spent $30,000 on, you know, the 20-year supply of food or whatever. The ENFJ, on the other hand, they're the protagonist. If anyone's gonna make it to the end of a story, wouldn't you think it's gonna be the protagonist? I suppose what it really comes down to is an INTJ during a zombie outbreak is just gonna be sitting in their bunker, but an ENFJ is probably, even if they have a safe place, they're gonna be like,
I should go out and help people.
and that's how you get killed. Wait a second, that's not how it was. Folks, this is crazy. It appears the INTJ has managed to find a way to scheme themselves up to fair. And you know what? I'll allow it, because INTJs clearly would have figured out a way to just leverage themselves with whatever means they had to get up higher on the ladder.
Frank, you just moved it. Don't try to pretend like the paper just moved.
No, I'm telling you, it. See, anything could happen in this ranking. Our next tiebreaker is down here, the ESFP and ENFP. They're fighting over not last. I guess another question is just like, which of these two types would be most likely to say this tiebreaker whole thing is stupid? Frank, why are you making us go through this? I think the ISFP would do that first. So that's how we determined that one. Right now, we have the showdown of the century. We have the INFJ versus INFP. So for the tiebreaker between these two, let's say it's a pie eating contest. Like, who can eat the most amount of pies in a certain amount of time. Now, the issue we're gonna have here is that the INFJ is gonna be like, I don't care about a ranking, man. Which I'm sure, how many of you have already left comments like, as an INFJ, I don't care about rankings. I don't believe in rankings. Go to the comment section now and see if you can find a comment like that and give it a like and give it a comment saying, Frank predicted this. But I don't know, an INFJ could also be like, it's just a friendly competition. It doesn't actually mean anything. I don't really care that much, and I want to eat some pie. Like, that's cool. An INFP, I think, is more likely to be like, this is stupid. I don't want to eat a pie. They might be like, dude, I am vegan. Is this a vegan pie? I think ultimately the INFP would just give so many issues to the judges of the pie eating contest that they would forfeit. Meanwhile, the INFJ would just be like, I'm just gonna eat the pie anyway. But wait a second, ENTPs. You know what I think would really happen in this scenario? The ENFJ would say, I feel bad for the ENTP, so you know what? I'm gonna give up my place so the ENTP can take it. The ENFJ is like, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. And the ENTP is like, well, I'm definitely not in first, but thanks anyway. Then this would set off a chain reaction where the ESFJ would follow suit and be like, how can I stand by when I've seen the protagonist, the ENFJ, put the team on his back and give up his spot? At this point, seeing that these arbitrary moves are being made, I think the ISTP would say, okay, whatever, this is entirely meaningless, I am out. The ENTJ would then take first and second place. Now, the ESTJ is probably going to want to fight over that. But of course, the ENTJ was planning for this very scenario. So what ends up happening is the ESTJ just gets like knocked out by the ENTJ. The ESTP, while having no plan throughout all of this, sees that going on up there and they're like, I'm jumping in ASAP. The ISFJ is gonna start to get really uncomfortable with what's going on here, so they're gonna just float down. I think at that point, the ISTJ would quit out of protest. The INTJ is just like, well, you know, there's some space above me, so I'm gonna float up here. The ENTP, ever an opportunist, has also followed suit. As all that was happening, the ESFP got bored and just went over here. The INFJ is gonna actually move up several spaces because they're like, hey, maybe I can help work out these problems with everybody. But the ENFP is like, screw this, I'm coming up here not to get ahead of you, but because I want some apple pie. The INFJ is moving up to talk to the INTJ and figure out like what is actually going on. So the ENFJ is like, okay, can we work something out? The ISFP is like, I'm gonna go to the beach now. The apple pie has been eaten, and so then the ENFP is just coming up here because they want to see what's going on. The ESFJ then like gets all up in everyone's business like that. The ENTP is like, we've got to throw a grenade, metaphorically, into this. So the ENTP then convinces the ENFP that it would be a good idea for him to go just like add fire to the fuel. It's too many extroverts altogether. And it kind of just collapses. ENTP jumps over them and he's like, now I've got first place. The INTJ is like, I really wish I had acted sooner, but you know what? I'm just gonna take second place and I'm gonna
plan a way to take you out.
INFJ is like, I don't mind third, why not? Seems fine. In the middle, you have the ISFJ who's like, yep, I expected that from the beginning. And the INTP who forgot what was going on, much like the viewers of this video. Then at the bottom, the INFP, using it as inspiration for their next novel.
They say strangers come to town.